It's playoff time in Rocket football land. Fans, we will host the opening round of the Class A playoffs on Friday night, kickoff 7 p.m., Rocket Stadium, and Caverna will come to town. This is a perennial opponent of ours in the playoffs. Coach Thompson, they have not won a game since 2015. What do you do this week to keep your kids excited about playing this game?
Well, you just remind them what the goal is. You know, when we came into it, it wasn't about getting to the first round of the playoffs and then hoping we can get a win. It was about making a run. So they've been preached to this week, you know, making sure that every rep is preparing them for what the goal is in the end. So it's not even thinking about today or on Friday. It's about the long run.
Of course, it is difficult when you go into it against an opponent where you're the clear favorite, and to keep everybody focused. And I know that's a challenge. Mm-hmm. But this team in the past, you know, there's been times when we played them years ago. I remember going down there. It's been probably 15 years ago, and they had a pretty good football team, but they've just fallen on some hard times. This school has put out some great athletes. Many of you know Denny Doyle, the Doyle brothers, are famous in baseball. They made they created baseball camps originally, and they're from there. And this is an interesting. This school actually serves two counties, Hart and Barron County. There's only two school districts in the state that straddle county lines like that. But what about this team?
Yeah, they have good athletes now. Their numbers are up from last year, and you know, they're just searching for an identity. We've seen them run a lot of different offenses on film, and we've seen them run a few different defenses as well. So it seems like to me they're just searching for a way to get a win. So I think they'll come in here, you know, and pull out all the stops, pull out all the trick plays, and try to find a way to just get some excitement going, just leading the next year.
Well, I know if you look at their record online, the KHSAA website, you'll see that they're actually 1-9. What that is they had a forfeit. They won a game by forfeit. Greene County had used an ineligible player, but they actually lost that game. I think it was 43 to nothing. So they've given up at least 39 points in every game this season. So
well, that's good because we like to average over that.
You like to do that, yeah. Well, we almost doubled that last week in the season finale. So, you know, again. This is a team that we come in heavily favored and should win this game. The Rockets this week are ranked number 6. Coach Thompson, we got a little bump.
Yeah, I'm surprised. But I think Hazard might have lost last week or just fallen on some tough times here lately. They're still a good team, but that's nice to get that boost. You know, I always talk about not being a numbers guy and all the rankings, but it's nice to get that boost.
Yeah, you texted me, and I said, well, you're not a numbers guy. Why?
But I was surprised.
You are surprised.
Yeah. Sometimes you get shocked when you're not a numbers guy.
And it, you know, it is great. This is great for the kids. It's great for the community, you know, at large. It just puts us on the map for something other than maybe Amish and deer hunting, you know. Yeah. And Crittenden's been on the radar for football for many years. You know, we've been to the regional championship 3 times, and Crittenden County has won a state championship. And, you know, the Lichtkenhouse rankings, now I can't find any rankings. I assume they stopped October 15th is the last rankings I guess that they put out. But we were ranked at that point number 4. And the highest we've ever been rated was number 5, and that was in 2010. But we are number 4 right now, ahead of Campbellsville. Campbellsville is 2 places behind us. But the highest we were ranked in 1985 when they won a state championship, this is some number stuff, Coach, was 18. So, you know, this is the highest we've ever been in the Lichtkenhouse rating.
Yeah.
We were number 3 at one point this year after beating Union County.
Yeah, that's great. But, you know, we've had the opportunity to have a few of those players from that team come in and speak to our team this year.
The 85 team.
Yeah, on Thursdays we have our team meal and we'll have a guest speaker. listening to those guys speak, it's funny to listen to them speak, really, because they talk about how they didn't know. They didn't know anybody outside of here. They just knew that they thought they had a very good football team, and they believed they could beat anybody they stepped on the field with. And I feel like our kids feel that way, but the difference in times with social media and just being able to pick up your phone and see those rankings puts that pressure on the kids to believe or not believe that they can beat a team before they get there. So I feel like it's just a tougher thing to deal with as far as being able to see those rankings and know a lot more about those teams than they have to deal with. So when they stepped on the field, they truly weren't intimidated. They just knew that they were a good team.
And Beechwood had not developed their mission of being a magnet football school at that time either. You know, and since then, I think it's 12 state championships maybe. But the rankings are fun. We like to look at them, and so are some of the other accolades that you get statewide and regionally. And I want to talk a little bit about the All WKC team, Coach. You had what was it, 11 players on there, and Ethan Dossett was first team
All WKC receiver. I think he was a guy who he might have been first team last year as well. But he's a guy, you know, they get out there. He's known in Western Kentucky amongst the coaches, and you know, that's an honor for him to be recognized as first team All WKC. When you
put up a lot of gaudy stats like he has the last 2 years, you create a little bit of interest in you. People know who you are and recognize your name. Let's go through the rest of the guys and mention a little bit about each one of those guys. Quarterback Hunter Boone.
Yeah, Hunter, he's another guy that the guys know about. You know, statistically speaking, he's right there with any quarterback in the state. He can make any throw, and he does that for us. He's kind of the key component to our offense being successful. He makes sure that everything is run smoothly and everybody's where they're supposed to be and doing their job. So for him to be recognized, he really is more than his numbers say. You know, he's the coach on the field for us.
He really is. He does an incredible job. Very mature for his age. And,
definitely.
And we're going to have Andy Hunt on our special segment after you, and Andy talks about all the records that Hunter has set, and it's incredible. Like of all the high school passing records in Crittenden County, he holds like 80 or 90% of them now. And he's pretty close to the rest.
Yeah, and he should be, because you know the work that he's put in and the time he's got to play is his growth and maturity from start to finish is just second to none. So he's one that should be remembered for a long time.
Devin Nesbitt, All WKC selection, and he's had an incredible 2 or 3 years too.
Yeah, he definitely, and he's another guy that you know you can put in the conversation as being first team, just like Ethan and Hunter. You know, he finds the end zone. He's one of the most explosive players in Western Kentucky, and people know his name as well. Every Friday night, I mean, it could be a big night for him. And we're just lucky that he's on our team, because he may not be the biggest kid, he may not be the fastest, but you know what? He makes plays at a high rate, and to have him on our team is special for us.
And another guy that's really people are talking about too is Sean O'Leary.
Yeah, definitely. Statistically this year, you know, he is in that conversation. You know, he's a guy that any game, you know, just can destroy an offense by himself.
We saw that against Union County.
Yeah, his ability to be unblockable using speed and strength is just, it's awesome, you know, just to see his growth from a junior to a senior and how much he sells out this year. And, you know, with that work that he's put in, the recognition comes.
Yeah. Another one on the All-Star team is Tyler Boone. Boone too.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I think would have had an opportunity to just stand out and be on the first team if he would stay healthy. You know, I think his numbers would have been ridiculous. You know, he doesn't get that injury, but he's a guy that people know, and he stands out, and he can make any play on the field. You know, on both sides of the ball. You know, he's an explosive guy on offense, but on defense, he's an explosive player. So to hear that a guy's an explosive player defensively and he plays linebacker, you know, it's because he can play sideline to sideline and make any tackle or cover anything. And he can play any position. You put him on the defensive line. If you have to move him into the secondary, he could do that. So he's just special to have on our defense.
Devin Porter's one that we talked about last week. How you've just been so impressed with what he's been able to do this year.
Yeah, for me, this is a special one for me because he's a guy who a lot of the things he does goes unnoticed because he plays on the line. And those guys most oftentimes go unnoticed because they're putting in the dirty work. It's not the lights aren't shining on them, but in a year's time, he's decided that that's fun to him. That hard, I just want to drive you into the ground mentality it has driven him to be a special player, and it's improved our line having him inside, being a leader in there, and with that mentality. So.
Brock Langston, your center, and now defensive player some. He's been getting some reps on defense, but he's going to college and play football and had a great year. Yeah,
Brock's one. He brings that mentality to our team, that swagger, that that confidence that we need, that we were lacking really. And you can say that he brought it, and we grew up at the same time. But he's a guy that can make any block on the field. When he gets on you, it's over for you. And he stepped up here lately for us defensively and shown that he can play on that side of the ball and play two ways. That was a big thing. You're concerned. Well, he's a bigger fella. For him to be able to play two ways is awesome, especially going down the road.
Well, he's got a little swagger, and he's got a little rhythm, too. You watch him on the side.
I wouldn't call it rhythm. It's just once it starts moving, it finds the beat.
He's a showman, that's for sure. We like Brock. Gavin Dickerson, you call him Grandpa.
Grandpa, yeah. He just does his job. And when you do that, and you get the opportunity to make plays. And he's the leader of our defense. He's the heart. He's that guy that just, keeps us ticking. So for him to go out and get another opportunity after coming back from his knee injury to be on the All-WKC team is great for him and his family. So I'm just proud of him for that.
Yeah. The next one on the All-WKC team is, I said I was going to call him the Hebron Flash, but I came up with another name, the Hebron Hellcat. I think that suits him a little better. His Lathan Easley, and he's a blitzkrieg.
Yeah, it's just full speed, all go. When he does that, he's going to make the play, and it doesn't matter if it's think about your nose guard, and he plays defensive end some, but getting out and making tackles in the pass game. Receivers catching the ball and him making the tackle. That right there just tells you the motor that he plays with.
And just a sophomore.
2 more years. So, that's impressive. Young guy coming in, getting all WKC. And, I'm just excited that he'll continue to be on the team years to come.
The next guy, Brandon Lamy, he's a guy that you put him on any other given team in West Kentucky that hasn't got so many, and he's a star every day. He's a household name.
Yeah, he's a star talent. He can make any play on offense. He can make any play on defense. He's a guy that can take to the house, both sides of the ball, special teams. He's on all of our special teams. He never comes off the field. And this year he's been Mr. Dependable. He stayed healthy and he's really a leader when you think about it because his presence is always there. He's always out there, and he's giving us everything he has. And, it's just been big for us to have that guy that is the reason you can't take the other guys away. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why you can't just double DOS it up. Right. There's a reason why you can't sit and stack the box and take Devin out of the game. Mm-hmm. And it's because we have guys like Lamy.
He's a guy that comes to mind when I think of big third down conversions that we've made over the last couple of years. And, he's a guy that finds a way to catch the ball and make something happen. And last but certainly not least is Mr. Riley, Peyton Riley. And he's rounds out your 11 on the All-WKC list. And he's had a great year.
Definitely. He stayed healthy this year, and we were talking about that the other day. He said he had to knock on wood because I said that. I was like, well, you started out the year with a little nicked up, so you don't have to worry about knocking on wood. But, just him being on the field, shows he can make plays, and he would have made plays in the past if he just stayed healthy. You get a full year in. He's a guy that goes both ways for us. Another one like Lamy who plays on everything, never comes off the field. He's dependable. He's a leader, and he has a little bit of that swag, that Brock has that we were lacking. That just, I'm going to go make a play right now because I need to. That's what they need from me. And, just having dependable guys like that are old and mature and been fighting and battling together for years has helped us be successful this year.
Yeah. Great opportunity for those guys to be named on the All-WKC team, and really proud of them, and to be in position to put that many on it. That says a lot for a football team. We want to talk a little bit right now about our trivia question. Of course, that was a 10-week program, so we will not have a competitive trivia question this week. You can't win any golf matches or golf rounds on this one.
I do want to say before you read the question, just in passing real quick, someone whispered in my ear on the football field that you're going to come up with harder questions, that you and Andy are just not bringing the real heavy hitters out.
Well, Andy can bring the house when he wants to. We talk about some of his more inconspicuous questions is buried in the stats, and we could make it very difficult on people. But I want to tell you the answer to last week's question, because it was a pretty interesting one. Covered a couple of eras of Rocket football. The question was, this season, 2 Crittenden County players have rushed for at least 170 yards in a game. There were 2 teams that had 3 players who rushed for 170 yards or more. And what were those teams, what years, and who were the players? And the answer was in 1963, and that's back when Crittenden County won their first regional championship. And Jimmy Hopper, Dennis Mott, and Jamie Champion. So those are some familiar names you may remember. Jimmy Hopper moved away from the community. He was living in Massac County last I heard, but Dennis Mott and Jamie Champion, you still, of course, Jamie just recently passed away, but you would a lot of times see him out at the ballpark, and certainly Dean Mott's always out there. The other one was not too long ago in 2011, and that was Dustin Hernandez, Bryce Willis, who was the quarterback, and Grant Gardner. So that was a pretty fun question. Yeah. I am going to throw a question out here for you, and you can text me, tweet me, if you've got the answer to it, because this is pretty interesting. This is a question Andy had given me that I haven't used yet, but as of last week, with your 9th win of the season, that's number 290 victories in Rocket football history. 290, okay? Who was the coach, who was the football coach when we won our 100th win? Now, I'm going to tell you, it hadn't been too long ago, so that tells you we went a long way and won about a third of our games. So I'll let you see if you can figure this one out. Who was the coach when the Rockets won their 100th football game?
I was going to ask you if I was alive, but you said that.
I don't know. You may not have been alive, Coach. Let's real briefly talk about around the region. The rest of the games this week will be Fulton County at Bethlehem and Fort Knox at Russellville. Campbellsville has a bye. Now, the wild card in this one may be that Fulton County-Bethlehem game, Coach.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good game. I think Fulton County, after talking this weekend to Fulton County's coach, they go down to Ballard Memorial and take them into overtime without Kimball, or I can't think of the other kid's name, but he started fullback for them. Neither one of those guys were there. So just one of the 3 backs they use, and they go to overtime with Ballard. So they keep score with a team that we know that can score. So that just tells me that there's a little more to Fulton County, and I think that they might be able to make that trip to Bethlehem and give them a really good game.
And if that be the case, they come back here.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's what I want to happen, because anytime you get those 3 athletes on the field, it could be trouble if you're not at your best. So, but I just think that that's a game that, it's hard to pick the winner.
Crittenden will, if Crittenden wins this week against Caverna, as we expect to, then the next week we will host another playoff game, and it would be the winner of that Fulton County-Bethlehem matchup this week. And as we said, over at Campbellsville, another number 1 seed over in the other district, they will not play this week because they would have played Fulton City, which forfeited. Yeah. So Fort Knox will be at Russellville. Knox hadn't had a great season again this year. They've been on hard times the last several years, and we expect Russellville will come out of that. Yeah. And then we'll go to Campbellsville following week.
Yeah, I look for Russellville to have it put together if they're healthy in the playoffs and be able to, compete. They were a good football team. We played them in sloppy conditions and whatnot, but, they stay healthy in that game. They lost some players in that game, just like we did. They play hard, so that's what I think back on the year. That was probably the hardest hitting team we played, and with having a whole season under their belt, and if they're healthy, I think that they're a team that can make some noise right there in the playoffs.
Speaking of healthy, we'll close out the show with the injury report. Yeah. Give us an update on all your guys. It's getting better.
Yeah, definitely getting better. Caden, he's continuing to get himself back in football shape and be able to play more and more. He had 0 issues with the back. Ian, he's got his knee brace in, so he's been doing football-related stuff. He was able to go 8 game-like reps, and it wasn't because we limited him to 8. That's all the game-like reps we did in practice that day, and he was able to do all of them. So, he's one. As long as there's no setbacks, eventually, you just got to see what he can do before decisions made. So we might see him play a little bit of football and just see. But the knee is holding him fine, and he's a kid. He knows what it feels like better than anybody, and I think that he's to a point where he understands that honesty it's not about just getting back on to play one more snap. I think it's more about him making this is something that he needs to do or not do. And that's the way we want them to be. That's what we want all our players to be, because they got to understand, football is for a few years of your life, and it's injuries can be forever if not handled properly. So he's a guy that we might see give it a go this week, just depending on how he feels. As of right now, he feels great. That's what I've never seen a kid so happy coming up to me after practice. He's like, "Coach, it feels great." It was real excitement. You just tell, like a little kid at the candy store or something, you get to see on his face that he was excited that there was no setback. So that's good.
If we get him back, then barring Preston Turley, who's out for the year with the broken bone.
That's funny. You bring him up. A lot of people, ask me, is Preston upset? Does he blame you for talking him into playing and he's missing basketball? But I'm sure that the pressure is there for him to want to be ready for a basketball season. But he asked me, he said, if we make this run like we expect to, I get released at this date. Would you let me play? And it's like, it's not even about that, but just to know where his heart's at. That's awesome. It says a lot about him as a kid and a teammate to his brothers. He just wants to be out there fighting with them. So, but, I thought that was a cool story. But the last one was T-Bone. His hip, it's all about the strain in the hip. He had a little bit of a setback after practice. Trying to get he's out of shape. He is. He's not.
It doesn't take long to get out of shape.
It doesn't at all. And he just tried to plant and turn, change directions after we were done with practice and kind of tweaked a little bit. He's not. If he absolutely had to go play football, he could play football. But we're just gonna be cautious and make sure that we play it safe, and he's probably not going to play this week.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, we're getting close to having everybody back then, and that's exciting as we get ready to make this deep run into November. We would like to be playing on Thanksgiving Day, Coach.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Rocket fans, we'll see you out at Rocket Stadium on Friday night. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. And remember, we'll be trying to do another one of those pregame shows from the sideline just for a few minutes before kickoff. So tune in to us on Facebook Live for that. Coach Thompson, good luck this week. Let's get started on season number 2.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
I'd like to welcome Andy Hunt to the set today. We appreciate Andy coming by, taking a little time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about some statistics. We have Mr. 6. Well, this is Mr. Numbers himself right here, Andy Hunt. He's the guy that feeds us all that information about records and who's close to breaking a record and compiles all the stats year after year. Andy, how'd you get involved in doing this?
Kind of goes back to when I was in college. Of course, I kept up with things from home through the press and such then, and the website was kind of in its infancy then. And you had mentioned some stats about a player that you thought was possibly a school record, and at that time we didn't have anything really. So I started looking back on what you had, adding it up and comparing that, and all of a sudden I thought, what if I did this for everything on the website? What if I went back and looked at newspapers? University of Kentucky, where I was at, had a great resource of what I kind of feel is every single newspaper ever produced in the state of Kentucky, available on microfilm at that time. So I went through every single newspaper, every single game, and started charting all of this to build what we kind of have today.
Incredible amount of time he's invested in this, and I know at one time he came to me and said, I need to get into all your archives at the Crittenden Press, so rather than me spending that much time with him, I handed him a key to the office. So Andy spent a lot of nights here going through our old volumes of newspapers. And hey, the Rocket Nation has so much appreciation for this. It means so much to the football program to know its history, to have it at its fingertips. And we just want to really pat Andy on the back. We appreciate him coming on. What year did you graduate, Andy?
2003.
2003. So he's a former Rocket. One of my greatest memories of Andy was over at Webster County when you landed in the end zone, and you were as big as you are now, and you like took up all from end zone to goal line, from back of the end zone. He was laid out there. I can't remember you got hit.
Yeah, a little anxiety attacks, a little trip to the hospital over there in Madisonville that night. Yeah, so I was definitely one to remember.
Yeah.
So,
well, tell us about, everywhere I go, people say, and I'm sure you get the same thing, who's on the record watch this week? What records are going to be broken? Let's just talk a little bit about some of the main records, and there's a lot more of them. He's got some of the most inconspicuous records that you can find. Go on the website, and he keeps that every week, and you can dig in, and if you've got some time, get a cup of coffee and enjoy it, especially as a Sunday morning read, But go over some of these, the big ones that's been broken this year and last year by some of the guys that we've got on the team now.
all right. We'll start out with Mr. Six himself, Devin Nesbitt.
Devin, you're the real Mr. Six.
The major record probably he's broken this year, mate, is 56 total touchdowns, 49 rushing, 5 receiving, an interception, a kickoff return touchdown. The former record holder was J.D. Gray with 48. He's really come on again here late in the season. That's just a pile of touchdowns. And to kind of talk about that later in the season stuff, in the last 4 games of this year and the last 4 games of last year, Devin has 24 touchdowns. In those 8 games.
So what are you saying? Is a slow starter?
Well, good finisher. How about that? There you so he's really come on again this year. In those games, he's averaged 9.2 yards per carry. There are a massive amount of other records that he has set. Points scored in a career, he's broken that record. Now heading up toward 350, getting up for that level. It's just a lot of things there for him. Ethan Dawson broke the receiving yardage record this year. He has 2,058 yards right now. Broke TK Guess's record of 1,774. But before the season started, but in his sophomore year he missed 7 games, and before this season started, he only had 2 more players that had career yards greater than him. So he had a massive junior year before this to set this year up. Hunter Boone.
And by the way, Ethan Dossett made the first team All WKC, which is pretty coveted award.
Yeah, and about those awards, in our record book on the website, way in the back, about page 124, I think is where it's at literally, there is a listing of anybody who has ever been All-State, All WKC, first team or otherwise, any regional awards. I know sometimes newspapers, the Murray newspaper did a special team a few years ago. All those are listed in there, so you can go back there and check those out.
Awesome.
As well. Hunter Boone, to pick one for him is kind of difficult, but the thing that when I was thinking about doing the show today, there's so many, and I thought, how many are there for Hunter? Hunter Boone has broken or tied 29 school passing records that I keep up with. Now, there's a lot of them there, and some of them, are little stretches sometimes, but 29. So he doesn't have 14 of them right now, and he'll break 4 or 5 more before the year is over. But if you're going to say, okay, all right, pick one. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you like the most? Passing yards and a half kind of stuck out to me. 282 passing yards and a half against Ballard Memorial this year. So as you think about that, it's 564 yards for a total game. There are only 19 quarterbacks in Crittenden County history that have passed for more than 564 yards in their career. Yeah. And we're talking about a half year for 282. So that's a huge record there. Sean O'Leary on defensive side of the ball. What a great year he's having.
Great year.
One of the, I think, the most outstanding records has been broken this year. Tackles for loss in the game.
Certainly. How dynamic that play is.
Oh, it absolutely is. And to hear, for that Union County game, I talked to a lot of Union County fans afterwards. And they said, "Who's Sean O'Leary?"
They know now.
They know his name. Everybody knows his name. 9 tackles for loss in the game. That's just incredible. Adam Beavers, Josh Cozart had 5 before that. Aaron's already also had 5 in another game this year, so he would have tied the record if that still stood. But just to understand the gravity of the percentage that he broke that record with, if you took single game rushing yards, 343 yards, and broke it by the same percentage, somebody had rushed for 617 yards in a single game. So he obliterated that.
Incredible performance.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Sacks in a season for Sean O'Leary as well. That record was first set in 1985 by Jeff Porter and Jeff Campbell with 9, and then Zach Beverly tied that in 2002. So that record's really stood untouched now for 16 years. He's already has 11 sacks this year, and probably going to add to it here in the next few weeks, I would say. There's just a lot of records out there. As Chris and I were talking before we got on there, this is the list here of 23 records that are about to be broken by players that are right on the cusp of it. And, I expect many of these 23 to fall here shortly. One other thing about this senior class, those 4 guys I named were part of the senior class. Gavin Dickerson's another player that is on the cusp of some major records. But that senior class has broken 79 individual school records. So, just a huge impact on the record books, historically speaking, going forward. Their names will be written in there for a long time in a lot of different places.
That's so wonderful, but then you take a look at what it's going to mean for this team moving forward when they're gone, and it just gives everybody else something to shoot at. And I know some of these younger guys, we've talked about this before, who's some of the younger guys out there off the top of your head that's, maybe poised to eventually get there? Braxton Winters, Tyler Boone, certainly in tackles.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys, there's some young Rockets that are really starting to add up on those tackles. I'm going to be interested to see how Xander Tabor's career kind of, after that 170-yard performance. I mean, that's a great performance there. Caden McAllister missing this year. He had a lot of tackles last year. It's unfortunate for him how the season's turned out, but maybe he'll be able to pick that up next year. Lathan Easley has broken the record for sophomore tackles for loss in a season. He broke Tyler Boone, the other sophomore.
It's one of those obscure records.
It is. Yeah. I have a lot of stuff that is by class to see what it is. A lot of people that way that maybe don't have those career records, we can recognize them for what they accomplished in a single season.
Well, again, all of this stuff that you want to, for you big Rocket fans, get on the website, spend some time going through it. It's probably the most comprehensive high school website. I can't imagine another one being any more comprehensive. Yeah. Maybe it is somewhere. It's a big universe, but we pride ourselves on what we've been able to do with the Rocket website and with Andy's work. It's made. It's easy to go back in history and see where we came from, where we're at, and where we're going. And I know this week we may put up some records against Caverna.
Possibly. I think we set the school record for largest shutout, 69-0 last year. So I'm going to say it might be close to repeat this year.
All right. Well, we appreciate Andy coming on and really thank him for all the work he does for the Rocket football program. Appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely.